You're listening live to WCEG Network, where we are the worldwide community empowerment group, where we speak life into the community. You can log on to us at WCEGTalkRadio.com, or you can watch us on your smart TV on Roku Cable Channel, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I am William Bill Edwards, host of Wisdom Wednesdays. For the next hour, I am pleased to have as my guest Ms. LaShandra Little, Fulton County Voter Education Outreach Manager, and Mr. Aaron Johnson, Fulton County Registration and Elections Board Member. Our topic for this event is voter registration and preparedness. How you doing, LaShandra? I know you're here.
I am doing great. How are you?
I am doing just wonderful. I'm glad to have you. You know, it's like having family back with you and Aaron, being part that you've been so much part of the local government and county government, both of you. Glad to see you doing well, doing other things. How's everything going for you at the elections office?
Everything is going well. We're a little busy right now, but everything has been going well. It's been good to see excitement that we had not seen in previous elections for this upcoming election.
So, Shana, what are the duties of a education outreach manager? What is it that you try to do for the election purpose?
That is a great question. And so after the 2020 election, when they completed a full audit on the Fulton County election procedures, processes, it was stated in the audit there needed to be somebody in a leadership role that could go out into the community to provide education for all of the Fulton County citizens. So my role with my division is to ensure that we are going across the county. As you know, we are over 500 square miles in Fulton. And so our goal is to go across the county, all 15 cities, to provide voter education and all information about the elections to all the citizens who are in need of it. And we also try to partner along with events that are already happening across the county to actually partner with them as well. And so if there are larger crowds, which means we can have more of an impact with those who are attending.
Well, a lot of events, especially some outdoor events I've been to lately, I always see the voter truck out there and people taking people's information, which is always good. But is there any data that will show you that a particular part of the city or town or whatever that you need to go to? Do you use any data for that?
Yes, well, so we look at our voter summary report, and that literally shows every precinct within the county and then how many people voted within that precinct. And so sometimes we will try to target areas that had low voter turnout in the previous election. And so we are looking pretty much at the data from 2022 general election, and we look to see where there's low voter turnout to ensure we're trying to do events there. And then outside of looking at that data, we always know that our college students, our high school students, and our seniors are the ones that need the most assistance at each election cycle.
You know, everybody knows when the date when the election is, but as an organization in Fulton County, when do you all start really preparing for the actual election before it gets here?
We started preparing last year, honestly, because we knew this was going to be a huge election. And so November 5th will mark the fourth election for the year. We've had three earlier elections because we had the March presidential preference primary, and then we had the general primary and the runoff in May and June. And so we started our staff with our temporary staff. They started coming into the office towards the middle of January. And so we've been working all year to ensure that we're good to go for November.
Mm-hmm. Are we doing anything different now in terms of voter preparedness that we didn't do the last time? Any new concept that you're implementing or anything?
Oh, definitely. So one of the things that we have been doing this year, and it's really just come from a little bit of time with me trying to build relationships across the county, but I have trained Fulton County school teachers. I'm training Atlanta public school teachers, so they are equipped to help their students register to vote right there at their high school. I have also been working with all the senior centers to go out there. And one of the things that we're doing this year that we have not done before, we're going to do pop-up outreach locations at our 4 multi-purpose senior centers in the county. So that will be the Bowden Center, Dorothy Benson, Helene Mills, and Emma Darnell Center. Those are our 4 multi-purpose centers. So we're going to have 2 days at each senior center where the seniors who typically go there every day can actually go there. And even though anyone can go to that location, we want to gear it towards our seniors. And so we're doing that. That's a little bit different, that we had not done that before.
Has the faith-based community and the churches, have they embraced this concept of getting people registered and getting them to vote?
Oh, yes. I can tell you, we've spent probably since August, we've been at churches every Sunday, working with the pastors and the leaders at the churches to really get the word out. And then even on tomorrow, I'm working with a group of faith-based leaders, and they're actually coming out to our elections office, and it's going to be a part of our elections academy. That was something I was tasked to create. And so we spent an hour giving a full overview of the election process, what each division does to prepare for the elections. And we ended with a tour of the facility. So I'm doing that tomorrow morning with a few of our faith-based leaders in the community. Some of the churches are working together, and the pastors came together because they wanted to have a little bit more information. And then there are also some pastors who reached out to me who I'm training as deputy registrars. So therefore they are equipped. If they wanted to be able to host a drive in their church, they could do so.
And, a lot of this relies on a lot of volunteerism.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Joe Blow, who doesn't have a background in government or not affiliated with a church or whatever the case may be, how do I get involved, and what is that I can really do? Or is there any training that I would have to go through? Who do I call?
So if they want to assist us as an extension of Fulton County to be able to help folks get registered to vote or volunteer with the outreach team that goes out and about, then they contact me. On our Fulton County website, so fultonelections.com, there's a tab that talks about resources, and there's one tab that says voter education and events. They can click that, and there are 2 request forms there, and they would do the request form for deputy register. And then I would send them the deputy register schedule, and I can get them trained, and they take an oath, they wear a badge, and they're able to come out with us across the county when we go out and do events. Like today, we had 2 deputy registers assisting us. I'm at Sadie G. May's senior facility today, helping these seniors get registered to vote, change their address, and submit for their absentee applications. I have some deputy registers that are here with us assisting in this effort. And so it can be the same thing from any everyday average citizen, in which we have had an influx of deputy registers. I have over 1,000 this year, which I have not had since I started. And so we have over 1,000 that literally are volunteering. They're hosting their own drives, and they're coming out to help us when we're doing our education events.
And based on, we talked about data a few minutes ago, but based on what you all have seen, is there any particular category of constituency that you want to focus on right now, based on previous elections? Is it the seniors are voted not as high as they did last year? You're trying to push that up. How are you working that?
So definitely we've been focusing in on our seniors and our college students, and really because there's some misinformation out there with our college students, which we've been on the campuses for the past couple of weeks, but somebody told the college students if they registered to vote in Georgia, they had to forfeit their ID. And we're like, well, and so it's misinformation out there like that for our college students. And so we, like, yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. And so we were at every college campus, with the exception of Georgia Tech and Savannah College of Art and Design, because we were at Georgia Tech today, and we'll be at Savannah College of Art and Design tomorrow, with our goal making sure that we were able to hit each campus and be able to talk directly to the students, because there are a lot of students who do come to Georgia out of state to attend our institutions. And so our question to them is always, do you want to be able to vote in person here while you're in Georgia, or are you wanting to vote back home? And so depending on their answer, we can help them. If they say back home, we say, okay, you have to look up, your state and see what the requirements are to get your absentee. Or if you want to do Georgia, we say, okay, what is your address? And so they use their address. If they're living on campus, they would use that address, or if they have an apartment or off-campus housing, they use that address that they have in Georgia. which by law they are able to do and be able to change their registration and be able to register to vote in Georgia. So we've been focusing on that population. And then with our seniors, what we have found since that last election, a lot of the seniors didn't vote in 2022. They voted in 2020 for the presidential election, but there were some that did not. And then they have now since moved to these senior facilities and these senior living communities, and they didn't change their address. And so like today, we had to do, a lot of them are registered to vote, but they are not registered because now they reside here at Sadie G. May. So we needed to change their registration. And so that's what we've been doing a lot of when we've been going to the different senior facilities.
So which brings up another question. You know, you're taking care of your caregiver, your parent who's not going to be able to get out to the poll.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help those people make sure that those votes are tabulated when election time comes?
So we will have to make sure they submit their absentee application, and they will get a ballot mailed to them. Now, what we have been saying to the caregivers, if their senior is is able to move and go vote in person, do so. If they are not, then make sure we've been giving them the locations of where our drop boxes are so that they can put it in the drop box, and that way we know we will receive it versus putting it through the postal mail. We know in Georgia lately, our postal mail has not been going well, and a lot of folks have been receiving mail late, not receiving it at all. There were several folks during the primary season that received their ballots after the election was over. And so my advice has been to the caregivers and to any of those who are working with our seniors, take them to a drop box, or if you are going to mail them back in, use a private service, FedEx, somewhere where you can track it and ensure that it can get to us versus just dropping it through the mail.
Talk to me a little bit about this whole concept of drop boxes and how secure are they and where are they located?
Okay. So the rules did change from 2020. So we were in 2020, Fulton County had 30 plus drop boxes all over the county. They were accessible 24 hours a day outside. You can drive up, drop your ballot in and keep moving. And SB 202 changed that. And so now we get 7 drop boxes because it's based on how many active voters we have. And so we have about a little over 740,000 active voters right now. So we get 7 drop boxes and we try to locate them across the county. So they're in neutral spots. And so we do Buckhead Library, we have C.T. Martin, we usually do East Roswell Library. And while we're here, I will check to see where the other 3 are, because I want to make sure. I think it's Wolf Creek Library, but it's typically our library facilities, which we have, which are the government-owned buildings. And now they have to be located inside of the early voting locations during early voting hours. So they are very secure because now they are located inside the buildings and they'll be during early voting hours.
I saw something the other day by Congresswoman Nakima Williams.
Okay.
On social media. And it was about people going back and checking because of the purging of people off the voter registration rolls, to actually have it taking the time to go back and see if their name is still there. How true is that?
That is very true. That is a very true piece. And so what happens is in Georgia, if you miss 2 general election cycles, your voter registration is canceled. And so for the people, for example, who maybe in 2016, they were, dismayed and chose not to participate. And then they didn't vote in 2018. Well, in 2019, they probably were purged. And then for the folks who missed out on the 2020 election because for whatever reason they said, you know what, I don't care. And that was a good number of people who did not vote in 2020. And then when we had the 2022 election, they still didn't vote. Last year, 2023, we purged, I can't remember what the number was in Fulton, but I know it was over 30,000 that were removed from the rolls. And then the other piece that's happening outside of the cancellation piece is inactive status. So that's the other reason why we've been asking people to check their status, because there have been people who have been placed in inactive status because it could be that mail was returned. And so I can tell you for sure that our Secretary of State's office used a third-party vendor to recently send out some notices to voters. And some of the third party didn't use enough postage. And so that caused the mail to be returned. Anytime election offices receive return mail, the clock starts on your registration, and that because that means we didn't hear from you. And then you get placed in inactive status. Inactive isn't bad. Inactive, you can still vote by simply going to the precinct, doing early voting or election day and casting your vote, or by updating your information. So inactive is not bad. If you see inactive, you're still good. But if you log in and something and they cannot, you don't see yourself, or we look you up and it says cancel, that means you're actually going to have to register to vote all over again.
Tell our viewing audience, you talk about when you register in where, and one question. And the other question is, so I'm hearing you saying that if I am purged from the role, a notification is sent to me. Am I correct?
Yes. So anytime we do anything, if you go in and say you're changing your address, you change your name, we send out a new precinct card. If we get the list, because we do work with our government partners, so our court system, our vital records. And so when we get the list each month of those who may be deceased, those who are felons, or even when we get the notices of those who would have needed to be counseled because of lack of voting in 2 general election cycles, we do send a letter out to those. We do send a letter to you in the mail to let you know that it's happening. So you do have enough time to respond and update it if needed, or if it's canceled, then you need to register to vote again.
Let me go back to this inactive status a bit, so I'm clear. Once again, tell me, if I'm inactive, that means I did not do what?
Well, that means that we've communicated with you in some way and you did not respond.
Okay, so, but that does not prohibit me from voting at all. It's just that I didn't respond, so I'm in inactive status.
Correct. And so and if you go into the My Voter page and you see that you're inactive, my advice is just update your information. Just go in and make an update. If your address is still the same, oftentimes when people register to vote, they didn't provide an email address or they didn't provide a phone number. Put one of those things in and hit submit. So then that way it shows that you've updated some information. And then once we verify, it will put you back in active status. Or if you wait until October 15th, when early voting begins, and you go to one of the early voting locations to vote, that would also put you back in active status.
So it would seem logical to me, and we have a question, I'm gonna get to it from outside, but it seems logical to me. I'm in inactive status. I may or may not know it. All right. So I come into one of the voter locations, and I've got a bunch of ladies and gentlemen sitting there with their computers. That something should probably say, well, hey, Bill, you can vote today, huh? But you got an inactive status. Let us help you update that.
Well, they will. So what will happen is when you come into that precinct, they're going to alert, the poll official will alert you to let you know that it did come up as inactive. And then they're going to read off the information. If it is still correct, you're going to be good to go. And you'll go on and get your voting card. If it's something that needs to be updated, they're going to give you a registration application to go ahead and update that information. And you're still going to be able to vote, but they're going to give you an opportunity to update that information, and we'll get it updated when the election is over, if there was a change.
Well, Dolores has a question for you.
I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, even if the third party vendor didn't use enough postage, that error is counted against the voter?
Unfortunately, yes. I don't know if you saw that story. It wasn't on Fulton, but it was on DeKalb a few weeks ago, where it impacted about 36,000 voters in DeKalb. And so unfortunately, the way the law works, when elections offices send out, whether it's the Secretary of State or us as the county, sending out mail, when it was returned, that sort of starts that inactive clock, because that means that we try to communicate with you and we haven't had any contact.
The second part of that question is, isn't that a form of suppression?
It could be considered a form of suppression, but that is why we have tried to make sure we let people know that inactive, everywhere I go, I keep saying inactive is not bad. That is not a bad word. You can still vote in inactive status. The only time you should feel concerned is if I said, like, if you reached out to a voting office or you looked yourself up and you couldn't find yourself, because that means you may have been canceled. And so what that would mean is that before October 7th happens, we need to get you registered to vote again.
Okay. So this one is it's two parts. First part, what happened last election when voters did not receive their absentee ballots before the election?
So what we tried to do in Fulton County, and we have it posted on our website this time, when it's 10 days out prior to the election and you still have not received your absentee ballot, we asked you to contact us, and we did put money in the budget, so we were able to next day deliver your absentee ballots to you. But the issue again is going to be being able to return that ballot back to us. And so we did try to be proactive in Fulton County and really let folks know if you haven't received it within that 10-day window, let us know so we can reissue, get it to you. But then you got to really make sure you, like I said, you're using those drop boxes, or there's going to be somebody who probably is available to drive that ballot back to us to one of our offices prior to that November 5th at 6:59 p.m.
Okay, the other part of that question is, if the voter is immobile and can't physically go to the polling place, how will the voter get a chance to vote?
So they would get their, so if they apply for their absentee application, they will receive an absentee ballot in the mail. And then they would just have to get that ballot mailed back to our office, or they can work with their caregiver or a family member to be able to return it back to us as well. They can actually walk it in to a office or to a drive.
Okay. That's it for right now.
Well, it looks like you have to be really committed to really wanting to vote. From all the conversations we've had here the last couple of minutes, because it seems to me that a lot of the responsibility for your being able to actively be a part of the process is on you as a citizen. Even when you talk about when you come in, but you still vote, but you haven't been registered or whatever. But for you to get back on that roll, you'll have to put in paperwork. You have to I'll call you, and people just, you know how we are.
I understand. That's why we have really been committed. Eric, I see one of our board members just got on, and thankfully they allowed the voter education outreach team to, our goal is if you request us to come out, we try to make it there. And so there have been, I can tell you from when I started to now, it's a much better relationship with the community. We are getting requests every day. I'm probably sure it's emails coming in now while we're on this call. And so we've tried to make it our best to ensure that we are getting out. We are working with the organizations, our third party, some of the organizations for them to help get the word out, because we do know that for some people, they're not going to take the extra step to research themselves or to do anything. And so our whole theme in Fulton County and working with our communication team is know before you go. And what that means is that starts with looking yourself up in the My Voter page to know your status and going from there. And that will really help you prior to you getting to the polls. Because if you know prior to October 7th, then you've taken care of everything you've needed to do before you hit the big day on November 5th or early voting starting on October 15th.
Well, I am a super voter, and all of my kids are super voters, and I make sure my grandkids get to be super voters. But when the congresswoman put that on Facebook, I really never thought about it. Actually, after going back and make sure that I'm still, able to vote, because if I've been voting all this time, next thing I know, I'm purged from the list, and that's going to be problematic for me, and I probably won't find out until the day I try to go and vote.
I think the good thing is with the most people who are super voters, you're going to be good. And most of you, if you're a super voter, you probably are one of those people who do know before you go and you've checked your status. Because I can tell you, Even when I said that at QLS, for example, the other day, and I probably had over 100 seniors that came to have me check, and everybody was still active. And I was like, you all are great. You know, you're fine. You know, you just voted. But I do know that, again, there will be some people who would not do that. And so I hope that, like you said, you hope to get your grandchildren to be super voters. I do hope that those of us who are super voters are working in their households, in their neighborhoods, in their community, in their churches, to help with getting that word out about making sure you know before you go.
Okay, I understand we got,
Where do they go?
where do they go to find that information out?
So we have the Georgia My Voter page, and that website is mvp.sos.ga.gov, or they can go to fultonelections.com, and it actually would direct them to the My Voter page as well. Or even if they do a simple Google search and just put Georgia My Voter page, it will take them to that website. And if they are not technology savvy, they don't want to do it on the internet, they can call Fulton County Elections at 404-612-7020, and we will look it up for them as well.
Now, you know, Fulton election is never going to be hot tomorrow. I understand we got Mr. Aaron Johnson. Aaron? Is he there? Well, we'll get back with him. This is also interesting, and for yourself and others who are working with you, it's a lot of work, LaShandra. And most of it, and look to me like it's two-part. Number one is to make sure that people are registered to vote, but to ensure that those who are or who think they are, that they really are, you know, they really are. It's a system of checks and balances, it looks like to me, and I always get the way I have the fear is that with all this technology, it's people, especially in my generation, you know, they don't want to be involved with this. And the other thing is that people, you have to overcome that people are afraid of everything when it comes to election now.
Yes.
I got somebody sitting in the room with me who don't want to do no absentee ballots. You know who that is. But they don't want to do it. They're afraid of absentee ballots and going to drop boxes and, you know, all these things. How do you think you all are doing in terms of overcoming the fear, the real fear of actually voting? People fear voting. And you believe it or not, they really fear voting.
Mr. Johnson, do you want to take that?
I was about to say, I'll jump in on that one. First of all, I apologize for being late, but just like LaShandra said, we are everywhere. I'm at the campus of Georgia Tech right now, coming from a voter education session. So thank you for having us, Mayor Edwards. This is a great conversation to continue to have. And the way we get over fear is understand that Fulton County does everything we can to assure that people can vote. Fulton County, I think we have, I don't think, we have the most early voting locations. We have the most robust voter education outreach team in the state of Georgia, Southeast, but at least the state of Georgia. As you can see, as I'm a board member for the Fulton County Elections Board, and we're out talking to students, we talk to seniors, we talk to community groups. We do all we can to instill confidence in operations. We have people down, our facilities, we continue to have people come to visit and tour our facilities so that they can see what we're doing and how we're doing it. LaShandra and her team put together tours all the time for folks who just want to come down and see what the process is. So we do everything we can to assure voters that when they vote, they can feel confident that their vote actually counts. You can track it online. If you go and vote early, you can go back to my voter page a day or two later, and you can see where you came and voted. If you ask for an absentee ballot, you can track your absentee ballot as well. You can tell the day we received your application, the day we mailed it back out to you, when we received it again, and it'll be counted obviously on election day, but you can see that we have it. So I think that we put a lot of effort into assuring people that if they vote, especially in Fulton County, that they know their vote counted.
Well, Aaron, I'm going to give you one pass because you're a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. I'm gonna give you one pass. But listen, talk to us about LaShandra. Talk a little bit about what she does as an education outreach manager. Talk to us a little bit about, what is this voter registration elections board? What do they do? How active are they? What are they about?
Well, we do more than they told me I was going to do when I got on this board. I can tell you that. We do way more than what I was told we'd be doing. So essentially, we're the policy setting body for the Department of Registration and Elections. We vote on early voting locations. We vote on the budget. We hire the director for the department. We're the only ones. We make the recommendation for the director. We look at different processes that the department will be doing. We get a report every month. That's kind of like I call it the infant board of commissioners with the board for the Board of Registration and Elections for the elections department. So those are the main things we do. But again, we also do things like we talk to people about, we try to act as ambassadors for the department. LaShandra's team does a phenomenal job of going across the county. But then there are times that they want to talk to other people. So we'll go out and, speak up on behalf of the county, on behalf of Board of Registration.
Mm-hmm. Who is the director of the Board of Registration?
Nadine Williams is is our current director. She's been with us, I think, about 3 years now, LaShandra. It's been about 3 years that she has been a director. However, she's been with the department about 20, close to 20 years or something. Yeah, about 20 years.
Mm-hmm. How many members are there on that board?
So there are 5 members of the Board of Registration and Elections. We have 1 chairperson and then 4 board members. I currently serve as the vice chair this year, but the Democratic Party of Fulton County chooses 2 board members. The Republican Party of Fulton County chooses 2 members, and then the Board of Commissioners chooses the chairperson. So if we go through a process, they determine who they want, they vote on it. Now they vote on all of us, but the parties send 2 people or 2 nominations for the board, both sides, Republican and Democrat, and then the chair. We each serve 2-year terms. Our terms are concurrent, so we all start on the same year. It's 2 years. I've been on the board since 2017. And our chair, for instance, she's been the chairperson for about 2 months. We had a chairperson that left, and our current chair has been there about 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so listen, we're waiting for the great day. All right, it comes. Everything's in. Everybody's squared away. Fear is still there. All right. I know in Florida, I have a cousin who worked with this stuff in Fort Lauderdale, and they're doing exciting things in terms of people being able to watch the votes come into the voting area and see what's really happening. Are we doing that here? I know we got a great new facility here right close to my house. Does it provide the opportunity for citizens to come in and to make sure that the process is what it is? Yes.
Actually, yes. People have always had the opportunity to come for years and years. You've always had the ability to go and watch the process. That's how that's how old I am. I'll tell you how old I am. We used to get messages telling us, all right, here comes the numbers before they showed up on the screen. Now, when they put it on the screen, everything is instant. I tell people you can do it on your couch or in the facility, you're going to get the same number. But as you mentioned, we do have a phenomenal new warehouse. One of the problems that we had was that our elections department was all over the county. You had the warehouse here, you had the staff here, you had our counting place here, we were all over. Our storage was in a different place. Now we're in one centralized location. As you mentioned, it's down in South Fulton. It is a wonderful location. It offers the ability for people to come down and see what's going on. As I mentioned, the department allows for tours. Now, in certain places you can't go, but there's certain things that you can see. They allow, if you want to come down, set up a group to come and look and see what this facility has. It's amazing. But you have to sign up now. Everybody can't just show up because, number one, we don't have that much room for everybody in Fulton County. But there's a process that you go through. You sign up. You're able to come down and watch the process. You're watching the ballots come in from the various precincts. You're able to see the people counting. You're able to see the absentee. You know, you're just able to see all the things that happen. And sometimes it's exciting. Actually, WSB TV set up during the primary, and reporters stood in the facility while the counting was going on when the process first started, and it worked out very well.
I'm sure everything is very secure when you do things of that nature.
Absolutely. And that's what I meant when I said that you can't go everywhere. There are secure locations that just anybody, even if you're an observer, you can't go to. Even me as a board member, there are certain places that I can't walk into, but it is exceptionally secure. And one of the things that Fulton County has had, we have had an eyeball on us for years. So we have been putting procedures in place to assure that, number one, our counts are going right, everything is right, but that as people are watching us, that we don't have to worry about what we're doing because we already know they're going to be watching us.
So here's something to both of you. We've talked about all these things and the responsibility of both the voter and the responsibility of you guys who are over elections. What has been to date, what in your mind, what has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in terms of convincing people that the number one, to vote, number two, that their vote's going to be counted? All right. What has been the biggest challenge you think in terms of getting that done?
Misinformation. There is a lot of misinformation and folks who have deemed themselves as election experts with no election experience, who have a large mouthpiece that are able to go out and speak, and whether it be with the third party organization or them getting on the microphone at a BRE meeting or Board of Commissioners meeting, putting information out there that's just simply not true. Like I stated when we first started, I was at Spelman on Monday where they asked me to come and do a voter education forum because literally someone had sent the students an email and was giving them information that if they registered to vote in Georgia, they had to forfeit their ID from out of state. So it's things like that misinformation that gets out there where it might be one person that says it and it spreads through the whole campus like wildfire. And thankfully, the election protection, one of the folks who are a member of the election protection gave me a call with 2 Spelman students on the phone. And then I have a good relationship with the SGA office, and we were able to set that up to talk to the students. And then we were on the campus yesterday, registered students, the same with Morehouse and the other colleges and universities, as we were at Georgia Tech earlier today. And so our goal is to, when we see what's out there, try to combat it with the true information. And our director really is very much aware as well, and she's committed to getting that. And so much so that we're creating a page on our website that's literally, I think it's going to be titled Rumor versus Reality or Rumor versus Fact, so that even your everyday citizen can go to that page to see the information. Because the other thing that we're seeing, as I said, gave you the college example, when we've been at our senior centers, there are these groups that are sending out postcards and letters in the mail telling these seniors they're not registered and they got to do absentee. And we are having to explain to them that's not going to come from an elections office. We're never going to send you something in the mail to say you're not registered, you need to register. That is, and I said, if you don't see an official logo from the county office, then this is some third-party organization or someone else that has sent this, but it's not us. And so there is a lot of that going on right now. And so that's a big issue that I know we are trying to figure out to make sure that we can combat the misinformation that's out there.
Well,
I would agree.
I'm pretty sure that the intelligent men of Morehouse College didn't fall for that. And go ahead over there.
I'll agree. Misinformation is the biggest thing. The intelligent people all over the county, all over the country. The problem is you start hearing things from other places. Like there's an issue in Texas, but all of a sudden it happened in Fulton County. So people think it happened. And our bigger one with misinformation, our biggest problem, in my opinion, is elected officials and candidates that spread misinformation. I'm one of the few people, I'm the only person on the board. I sat on the board when during the first Kemp Abrams election back in 2018. After that election, when Stacey lost, I had every Democrat in the state of Georgia down my throat with every conspiracy that you can think of. I mean, everyone that you could think of. Everybody needed to be fired at Fulton County. It was a lot. 2 years later, Donald Trump loses and it flipped. I mean, it flipped hard, and it flipped in a way that we couldn't imagine. But now every Republican had every conspiracy. And ever since 2020, if a candidate lost, we had a few candidates that felt like it was something nefarious happening other than more people voted for one candidate over another. Now it's rampant. It's every candidate that loses, they start telling people that something happened at the poll. They start telling everybody that I didn't lose, they was stolen from me. And I'll tell you one that there are a lot of wild ones, but one of my favorites was a candidate was in a congressional race and was on the verge of moving on to the next level or the next stage to runoff, and overnight they lost. And they started going around saying that Nancy Pelosi called the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections and told them that her candidate couldn't lose. So we changed all the votes. These are the types of things that it's so hard to fight those, because you get people who believe it, and then you get people who put it on the internet, and everything on the internet is real, right? So once they put it on the internet and it starts floating around, people have a tendency to believe it.
But how do you fight this thing of everybody thinks that Georgia is going to be a battleground where that people are going to steal the vote. They're going to do all these things. How I know you can't overcome it all, but how do you put things at ease or at rest in terms of what you're doing to ensure that never happens?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is creating this voter education and outreach team. Having this team go around Fulton County and talking to people, putting their minds at ease. Like LaShandra said, she just went to Spelman yesterday. There were things tonight here at Georgia Tech. I was like, nah, it doesn't quite work like that. And usually after you talk to people, they become ambassadors for you. So once they start realizing, oh, that's what happened. Oh, that's how it works. They actually begin to tell people. So it becomes a slight little battle of what do you call it, LaShandra? Reality versus rumor.
Yes.
It becomes a slight battle, and we have to push it forward. But we have to be on point in our office. We, as an elections office, have to do everything we can so that people can't say that there's an issue. But what I tell people is the way to overcome rumors is to get out and vote. You can't argue when it's down to, like in the state of Georgia, last in 2020, there was the election was decided by 11,000 votes. You can sit there and come up with 11,000 reasons why, well, this person was supposed to vote and didn't. You can do that with 11,000. You can't do that with 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, Mayor Edwards, the election in 2020 in the entire United States was decided by approximately 100,000 people total. That's the city of South Fulton. The city of South Fulton made the difference in a presidential election. So when it's really tight, that's when the conspiracies start to go. But if you overwhelm them with numbers, either way, whatever it is, if the numbers are there, it's hard to argue.
Let's talk about, there may be, they made some changes as the people who are lining up. Hopefully the line goes from here to Jacksonville, Florida to vote. But if there is, I know that there's some things that have been passed by the bill that you can't not do anymore in terms of as while you're standing in line. Refresh our memories on some of those things.
So the things that I point out about SB 202, the first one we talked about a little bit earlier is the fact that, we no longer have the 30 plus drop boxes across the county accessible 24 hours a day. There are 7 that are going to be across the county. The other piece that happened a lot in 2020 was out of precinct voting. And that goes back to what I said at the beginning about know before you go. Because doing early voting, you can go anywhere in Fulton County. We're going to have, well, now as of today, we're going to have 37 early voting locations open for 3 weeks across the county, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 5, and on Sundays, 12 to 5. And then we're going to do pop-up locations at our colleges and then our senior centers. And I've been encouraging everyone, go vote early. I mean, we know early voting is great because our legislature passed SB 129, which gives you 2 hours off from work so you can go vote early. Because when you vote early, it doesn't matter. But on election day, when you wait, for those people who say, you know what, I'm an election day person, I got to go on election day. Well, you have to go with where you're assigned. And the issue comes into play when people do not go where they're assigned. And what oftentimes I can tell you happens is they go to an early vote location. And most of our early vote locations are not precincts for election day. And so people get frustrated, they leave, and then they may go to another precinct. But the issue is coming into play is you no longer have that luxury to vote out of precinct all day on election day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. while the polls are open. SB 202 changed it. The only time you can vote out of precinct now and your vote counts is between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. And so if you do find yourself in the morning on your way to work, you run into a precinct that is not your assigned precinct, and you go ahead and cast that vote, you're going to get a letter in the mail. After we do reconciliation with the elections, and they're going to send you a letter in the mail to let you know your vote didn't count because you cast it outside of the time frame that is acceptable for early voting. So for voting on election day, because now when you're voting out of precinct, one of the things that our poll managers have to put on that piece of paper is what time that vote took place. What time did you cast that? Because that's what we look at. Because if it was before 5 p.m., it's not going to count. And so that's why we've really been trying to say no before you go. Because in Fulton County, we have changed a number of precincts. We merged some precincts. We had to close some precincts due to some facilities not letting us come back or renovations. And then just to try to be a little bit more fiscally responsible, we were looking at the county as a whole, and we had some precincts right across the street from each other. So some we have merged. We went from 250 to now we're at 189. So that is the other reason why we're making sure that people are looking at their My Voter page to know where their precinct is, because where you went in 2020, it might not be a precinct in 2024. And so we want you to know that, one, prior to November 5th, because election day, you have to go where you're assigned. And so those are the big changes. Of course, you have the no interaction in the line within 150 feet. But there have been some court cases lately that have sort of talked about that and the passing out of snacks. So that is not as a big of a deal as it was when it was first passed. But I think the biggest pieces for SB 202 and the changes was how you apply for absentee, because you do now have to have a license, a Georgia State license, ID, or some type of identification, similar to when you actually go into a precinct and vote. because a lot of our seniors' applications have been rejected because they don't have that ID and they didn't know that they needed to have it. And so that is going to be the biggest thing in out of precinct voting, are the two biggest things that have changed since 2020. That's going to impact votes in 2024.
Say again what that ID is.
So you can have there's a list of different IDs you need to vote. So whether you're voting in person now or by mail, you have to provide a Georgia State license, Georgia State identification, and you can use a Georgia State driver's license even if it's expired. You can use a federal out-of-state ID because it's a federal government issued ID. So that's what we had to let our students know. No, you can use your out-of-state ID. They can use a passport, a military ID, tribal ID. Even MARTA has a card that for people who ride MARTA often that has a picture on it. I can use my Fulton County ID. So if you work for any municipality or government, you can use that. And then our students at our state funded institutions, they can use their college ID. So our students, where Aaron is today at Georgia Tech, our students at Georgia State, Atlanta Tech, Atlanta Metropolitan, they can use their college ID. Unfortunately, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Emory, Agnes Scott, Oglethorpe, those are private institutions, and those students can't use their ID. But there is a litany of different, if a government issued ID, you can use that to be able to go vote.
And Mayor Edwards, real quick, I want to clarify one thing again, rumor versus reality. One of the things, two things that Chandra mentioned, first thing is with the ID. We used to get, and I still get sometimes that, Georgia is racist because if I go to a Black college, I can't use my ID. And I tell them all the time, that's not true. The difference is private versus public. If you go to Albany State or Fort Valley State or Savannah State College, you can use your ID to go and vote. Right. Now, but also if you go, like she mentioned, if you go to Emory, if you go to Oglethorpe, if you go to any private institution, you can't use those IDs. It's not just Morehouse, Spelman, Morris Brown, and Clark, but it's Emory, Oglethorpe, Agnes Scott, etc. Any private college versus any public college.
I'm glad you're saying that, because as I've been listening to you and your conversations of where you're located, this whole concept of voter education is not down racial lines. I mean, you're at a Georgia Tech, and she's been over Emory and stuff like that. That your message is for everybody, and the message does not change. And so I'm glad you're making a point of that at that time, Aaron, because
one more.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And one more thing, I said it was two. The other thing is changing polling location. We have had such an outpour of people going to early vote. Right now in Fulton County, over 50% of the voters vote early. That has caused a significant shift in polling location. Yeah. But not only that, buildings are closing. Some people sell buildings. Schools, people are shocked, but we don't have the ability to go in schools like we used to. If you look around the county, if you remember, we used to be in Stonewall Tail, we used to be in other elementary schools. They really don't want us in schools anymore, in elementary schools specifically. So we have to look at places that allow us to, number one, be there. We try to be there long term. But not only that, when we got these new voting machines in 2020, one of the things about them is they had a lot of, it required a lot of electricity in order for them to be able to use these new machines. Because if you think about it, back in the day, you had a little machine that sat on the desk, you plug it up, you can use it, right?
Yeah.
Now the machines are bigger, and also they have a printer with them. Now we have a scanner in there. We have all this additional equipment that we have to have in the facility. So we can't overload places. So we've had to expand, because I'll use South Fulton as an example. You remember Cliftondale Community Center used to be the hot spot. That's where everybody went. And then we had to end up splitting that precinct, and we went to Cliftondale United Methodist and the Enon Church. So we took that precinct, and it's not about confusing people, and it's not about trying to suppress the vote with people. It's trying to make it easier. Because if you remember, Cliftondale specifically only had one way in, one way out. The building is really old, but now if you go to Cliftondale, United Methodist, you got one way you can go and then another way go out.
Yeah.
Enon has a lot more room. So it's little things like that that we try to tell people. We're not trying to suppress your vote. We're trying to make it easier.
And the Clifton Center is no longer with us anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, this has been great. And we have some questions that Dolores has for you. So I'm gonna let her come in now.
I have 2 questions so far. Will water or snacks be allowed to be passed to voters in long lines?
Aaron, are you taking it? Or you want me?
All right. So this is the deal. LaShandra can tell you, as long as you're outside of 50 feet, this is what you could, you have to be outside of 150 feet in order to give out stuff. You have to be able to give it to everybody. You can do it. I'm going to tell you, if you want to give water, donate it to the elections office. They can give it out. They can give it out inside. So if you want the people in line to have water, take your water, donate it to the elections office, and then have the elections office do it. However, if you vote early, you don't have to worry about the line. I promise you, if we have 37 early voting locations, as well as voter outreach centers. Mayor Edwards, we're going to be in the Harriet G. Darnell Center. We're going to be in the
Bowden,
the Helene Middle Center, the Bowden Center, the Senior Center in Sandy Springs. We're going to be at colleges, and it's not just for seniors and college students to be able to go there. Anybody can go to those locations and vote. If you just happen to be across the street from Georgia Tech when we're on October 24th and 25th, when we're here at Georgia Tech, you can come to Georgia Tech and vote as well. But doing things like that and voting early keeps the lines down, and you don't have to worry about it on election day. We know there's going to be an unprecedented voter turnout this year. We're preparing for that. So that's why we have so many locations. And even on election day, when you get in there, where our goal is to get you in and get you out. So
makes sense.
Just make sure vote early.
Yeah, makes sense.
The second question is, did the redistricting affect cause the change in polling locations?
I wouldn't say redistricting caused the change in voting locations, but it did change representatives. And so there has been confusion, because I did have some people call fussing, trying to understand why there was a white man representing the South Fulton area. And so I had to explain to them that the vote that we cast in November is for the people who are going to represent us starting January 1. And so they had to redistrict again. We had some lawsuits filed that said our maps that were drawn were violating the Voting Rights Act, and didn't really give, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. So our legislators went back into session in December, and they created a new congressional district, and they created some new House districts and some Senate districts. For Fulton County, we've been voting for David. Well, I won't say Fulton, for South Fulton. For a lot of us in South Fulton, we had David Scott as our representative for the past 20 years. He is no longer in Fulton County. And so most of us starting in Smyrna, taking Smyrna, Georgia, and coming all the way down through Fayette, picking up, all of South Fulton County, and coming to Fayette County, we are now in the new Congressional District 6. The person who's currently has the number 6, he actually will be representing Congressional District 7, which is the number that the person who is running for Congressional District 6 currently has. And so we have to try to explain to people, we were like, Lucy McBath is in District 7, Rich McCormick is 6, but they pretty much, for redistricting purposes, they flip-flop. And so on your ballot, when you go to the polls, you're not going to see Rich McCormick's name. You will see Lucy McBath. You're going to, and so we've had to explain that to people. And I was like, he's not your representative. Technically, on paper, Representative Scott is still our representative through December 31st, 2024.
Well, you do very,
and I think
you have successfully confused us. Okay.
And let me also say this. I think that it just so happened that it coincidentally happened, redistricting in a few polling locations just coincidentally happened at the same time.
Mhm.
So all the people that, like for me, I have a new commissioner, I have a new congressperson, I have a new state senator, but I still vote in the same place. So there are some people when they saw, wait, I got a new polling location. Wait, I got new people. Oh, it must go together. No, it just happened to happen at the same time.
Another question. Okay, well, I tell you, this has been great. You've you have educated a lot of us in a lot of things, and I'm proud of both of y'all because I know both of you have been knowing both of you for a long time, and we could not have had two better people in terms of representing us on issues in terms of registration and election than the two of you. So I want to personally thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. I know y'all not going to be millionaires, but but at least you had opportunity. And the best is always, and I always tell you all the time, if you want to be great, just serve. And so you all have done that. And I think you're great. You're really, really, and it takes a lot from how people carry away from here today. It takes a lot to do this, you know. And sometimes our constituents and our people are our biggest enemies as they continue to argue and fuss without any understanding. And, you know, I say at the end of this show every day, and all you're getting is getting understanding. And so it would be so much helpful. That's why I do what I do, I'm doing today. Help you guys along, doing my part so that people can understand. And you've cleared up a lot of stuff today so people can understand what it is. Continuously giving people a platform. And that's what you all do. You all continuously give them a platform. Now, whether they take advantage of the platform or whatever, is two different things. You're not going to get them all, you know. And I tell you, if you're worried about where you're voting and stuff like that, if you're voting in this election, just go vote. You know, find out where you're supposed to go do your thing, and then and be done with it. So once again, thank you all so much. I appreciate both of you taking the time out. I know you were in a meeting previously, Aaron, but you did get a chance here to share with us today. LaShandra, thank you so much, because I know you've been out there on the field, ripping and running, trying to get things organized and continue to get people educated. So once again, thank you all so much. I appreciate both of you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate all that you do as well.
Thank you so much, sir. All right.
All right.
You can subscribe free to our YouTube channel, WCEG Network. You can like us on Facebook. You can even like us on Instagram. You can connect with us on LinkedIn and TikTok. And now you can download our free WCEG mobile apps. Alexa. All you simply have to do is talk to Alexa and say, play WCEG Talk Radio. You can listen to WCEG on any of our 12 distribution platforms. Last but not least, the topics and opinions of those of the show hosts and guests, and not WCEG Network. Thank you for continuing to support us. I'm glad that we had this. The voting is coming up real soon. Many of you have made up your minds. Making up your mind and not going to vote doesn't mean very much. Registering to vote but not going to vote doesn't mean very much. But in the words of Michelle Obama, do something. If you're going to register, do something. Don't just sit around and say, I registered, and think that you have a registration card in your pocket, in your wallet, or your purse is going to help the outcome of this voting in November. It will not. So once again, we're trying to give you all that we can get in terms of knowledge, in terms of any subject we have that may affect you. And as I always say, make sure that in all you're getting understanding. Thank you all so much.